Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Gabby and welcome. If you've never been here before, never watched any of my videos, have no idea what I do here on my channel, I cover true crime cases, and all the cases that I cover are a little bit older. They're all basically 20 years or older, so if that's something that you might be interested in, maybe go down below, click that subscribe button, and also make sure to turn on the post notifications to be notified every time that I upload. I just wanted to come on my channel and make a very short, and I mean very short video, probably the shortest video I've ever had on my channel, just giving a little bit of an update regarding a case that we just recently talked about, and a case that definitely included the biggest update of last year. If you haven't watched my prior videos this month, for the entire month of January of 2023, I just have been covering cases that had huge updates in them during last year of 2022. The first case I kicked off this year with was the case of the boy in the box, who we now know as Joseph Augustus Zarelli. If you are not up to date with the updates in that case, you can watch my original video on it. It will be linked in the description of this video. But to give a quick mental refresher, the lifeless body of a small boy was found off Susquehanna Road in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in late February of 1957. He had been beaten, he was malnourished, he was a homicide victim. His identity was unknown until late 2021, and the news of the identification was finally released to the public in late 2022. The boy's real name was Joseph Augustus Zarelli and was born on January 13th of 1953, making him 4 years old at the time of his murder. This was all discovered as a result of using the method of genetic genealogy. Since my original video, on January 13th of this year, on what would have been Joseph's 70th birthday, a memorial was held and a new grave marker for the boy was unveiled. One that included his reconstruction photo done by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, his full name, his birthday, and a text from the poem Little Angels. People who followed this case closely through the years, people who really cared for this case, even though there had been a press conference, they still just had so many questions that they wanted answers to. One of those questions being, who were the boy's biological parents? Parents that we know have since passed away, because that information was released in the press conference. Well, that information was finally released. Only a few days ago, on January 19th, the Philadelphia Inquirer released the heavily anticipated information, even though some web sleuths already dug around online and found the information themselves. His biological father was Augustus John Zarelli, nicknamed Gus, who was born on June 30th of 1926 to parents Agostino and Jenny Zarelli. His biological mother was Mary Elizabeth Abel, nicknamed Betsy, who was born on October 20th of 1931 to parents John and Mary Jane Abel. According to findagrave.com, both his parents were born and grew up in Philadelphia, but different areas. From my findings, Joseph's grandparents on his father's side had come to the United States from Italy. They were Italian immigrants, and his grandparents on his mother's side had been born here in the United States. His grandmother from Pennsylvania and his grandfather from Alabama. Joseph's mother was described as being kind and beautiful, and his father was described as being a very respected man who had owned his own construction business that was quite popular in the area. His parents were not married when he was born, and as we know, having a child out of wedlock at the time was extremely frowned upon. His mother at the time of his birth was 21 years old, and his father was 26 years old. It is unknown if his father ever even knew that he had been born at all. Law enforcement has yet to confirm this, but it is strongly suggested and theorized by many family members that Joseph Augustus Zarelli was most likely put up for adoption not long after his birth. His mother had graduated from Morrell Dobbins Career and Technical Education High School in North Philadelphia in 1949, and that next year she had actually given birth to a baby girl and put that child up for adoption, but hopefully her first child lived a long, healthy life, one that poor Joseph unfortunately did not get. Relatives of Mary Elizabeth were asked if they thought that she could have had any connection at all to what happened to Joseph, and a relative stated, Betsy, no way in the world. There was no cruelty, no meanness or cruelty that swelled within her heart and soul. It is unknown what happened between Mary Elizabeth and Augustus, but Mary Elizabeth would go on to marry a man named Joseph Plunkett. He had actually been her manager at a movie theater she worked at as a cashier called Goldman Theater, and they would go on to have 4 children together, one of them that died during childbirth. Her husband would pass away in 1989, and she would pass away herself on June 22nd of 1991 at the age of 59 after a battle with lung cancer. Joseph's father, Augustus, would go on to be married to a woman named Cynthia in 1958, and they also had 4 children together. Cynthia passed away in 2018, and Augustus passed away 4 years prior in 2014 at the age of 87. Now, the main reason that I really wanted to make this video is because these 2 families, especially on the Zarelli side, because of the last name and the ability to just look up that last name, have been so targeted by media. These 2 families, the children and grandchildren, have had to go through backlash from the public because when information was released to the public regarding this boy's identity, people found out who his parents may have been, and of course, a lot of people accused his biological parents as being responsible, considering he was so young at the time of his murder. A lot of people right off the bat thought that they had it all figured out, thought that they knew the story without really taking a moment to consider other circumstances. It is true that there hadn't been a missing persons report filed for the boy that we know of, so people at the time were not thinking that he had been abducted. But we did, of course, have to consider the other theory, which was adoption. That it possibly wasn't his parents who were responsible, possibly he was put up for adoption and then something happened from there. The Zarelli's lawyer, Dan Bush, stated that the family has been attacked in every possible social media outlet, suggesting the most awful of things, all of which are baseless. He goes on to say each of his children is extraordinarily sympathetic to the death of this young boy and horrified by the events that are being discussed. However, until recently, they had never heard of any of this. They had never been shown anything that links their father or any member of their family to this. There has been no credible allegation by anyone, including the Philadelphia Police Department, that their father knew of the birth of this child or had anything to do with the life of this child, and certainly nothing even remotely suggesting that he knew of or had anything to do with any harm having come to this child. A relative of Mary Elizabeth even stated, "I was stunned. I remembered the story. We used to get utility bills with his face on it, asking if anyone recognized him." Neither family knew of the other family and couldn't give any answer, and still can't give any answer, as to how the couple had originally met. But they possibly met sometime in the early 1950s when Joseph's mother may have lived in West Philadelphia. During the 1950s until 1958, when he married Cynthia, Augustus still lived in his family home in West Philly on the 6300 block of Callow Hill Street. Relatives have suggested that Joseph had been put up for adoption through a Catholic organization, since that is how Mary Elizabeth put up her first child for adoption. Both families were blindsided by the news of their relation to this poor boy, but they have said that they will help in any way they can to find out who killed him. It is believed by most that whoever beat, starved, and eventually killed this boy may have been the ones who adopted him. Just like I said in my first video, anyone with information on this case is asked to contact the Philadelphia Police Department at 215-686-TIPS, which is 215-686-8477. Remember that you can stay anonymous. And remember that authorities are offering a $20,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest and conviction in this case. Even though a lot of the detectives working on this case have already said that that is something that they are not extremely hopeful for due to how old this case is. The intensity everyone was feeling after his identification, the anger, the frustration, wanting questions answered, rightfully so because of how devastating this case is, but a lot of people had that sort of mob mentality going on, and unfortunately they were taking their anger and putting it on the wrong people. So I just wanted to kind of pop in today and give that little bit of an update to you all, because I know some people wanted me to do a video on it, and I know some people probably did not hear of this little update. But with all that being said, I will see you all in the next one, which will be my last video of January of this year.